She left me days after we picked out our wedding venue. And came back 6 months later, pregnant. With a baby she swore was mine. I still remember the way she looked at me when she said it, the weird combination of softness and finality, like she'd already grieved something I hadn't even realized was dying. We were in our little apartment, the one we'd gotten together after we got engaged, and I had just finished hanging a new photo frame she'd picked out. And that's when she hit me with it. I think I need to be single for a while. No build-up. No rail warning. Just a clean shot to the chest. I blinked, thinking I'd misheard her. We'd just gone to look at wedding venues a week before. We were supposed to be getting married in the fall. She was the one who pushed for the engagement in the first place. I mean, yeah, we'd had arguments, nothing insane, just the usual friction between two people trying to figure out forever together. But this? Out of nowhere? What are you talking about? I asked, my voice already tight in my throat. We're engaged. She sat down on the arm of the couch, arms folded across her stomach like she was bracing herself. I know, she said. But I can't go through with it if I don't know who I am outside of this relationship. That was her line. Word for word. Like she'd practiced it. Like it was rehearsed. We'd been together 4 years at that point. She'd moved in with me just after college. We'd built a life together. She was there when I got my first real job offer. I was there when her mom got diagnosed with cancer. We were supposed to be a team. But now I was just in the way of her growth or something. She started crying, of course. That twisted my guts even more because I still loved her, I was still thinking about marrying her, and now I was trying to comfort her while she broke my heart. I'm not saying I'll never want to be with you again, she added. I just need space. I hate that word. Space. It makes it sound so neutral, so innocent, like she's not about to go live her best life while I try to figure out how to keep breathing. I didn't beg her to stay, even though I wanted to. I just asked one question, is there someone else? She shook her head so fast I almost believed her. No. God, no. This isn't about anyone else. It's about me. Right. She packed a suitcase that night and went to stay with a friend. Said she'd come back for her stuff later. Left the ring on the dresser without another word. It felt like a slap. For the first few weeks, I held out hope. I thought maybe she'd call and say she'd made a mistake, that we could work on it. I didn't tell anyone what really happened, I just said we were on a break. I even kept wearing my ring like a complete idiot. Meanwhile, every night I sat on that couch, staring at the door, half hoping I'd hear her key in the lock again. She didn't come back. And she definitely didn't call. What she did do, about a month later, was post a picture on Instagram, her at some rooftop bar with a drink in her hand and some guy's arm around her waist. His face wasn't visible, but hers was lit up with that carefree smile she used to save just for me. That was when the second gut punch landed. So yeah. She lied. There was someone else. Or maybe multiple someone else's. I didn't even know anymore. All I knew was she needed to find herself, and apparently that involved dating around and posting it online like we hadn't spent years planning a life together. I went dark after that. Deleted her off everything. Took some time off work. Drank more than I should have. My friends tried to pull me out of it, bless them, they really did, but I was checked out. The part that hurt the most wasn't even that she'd left me. It was how easily she'd moved on. Like I was just a phase she outgrew. Months passed. I tried therapy. I joined a gym. I got a new haircut, even started seeing someone casually, nothing serious. Just trying to feel human again. Just trying to get to a place where waking up didn't feel like failure. And then, one rainy Tuesday in late March, she showed up at my door. No call. No text. Just a knock. When I opened the door, my brain didn't register what I was seeing at first. She was soaked, hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing a hoodie I hadn't seen in over a year. And she was pregnant. Not just a little. Like, visibly, obviously pregnant. My mouth went dry. I didn't say anything. I just stared. She blinked at me, wide-eyed and nervous. Her lip was trembling, like she was trying to hold something in. Can I come in? She asked. I should have said no. I should have slammed the door. But instead, I stepped aside and let her walk back into the same apartment she once walked out of like it was nothing. She sat on the same couch, now covered in a different throw blanket. Rubbed her hands over her belly like she was trying to ground herself. I stood across from her, arms crossed, heart racing. Every part of me was screaming for answers. And then she said it. The words that made my blood run cold. It's yours. I blinked. What? The baby, she said. It's yours. You know those moments where the world kind of slows down? That happened. I couldn't even hear the rain outside anymore. Just the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears. I laughed. I didn't mean to, but it just burst out of me. That's not funny. I'm not joking, she said. It's yours. We were still sleeping together back then. You know that. That much was true. We hadn't stopped cold turkey the moment she left. There was that one night, about a week after she moved out, when she came over under the excuse of grabbing more of her stuff. It ended in the bedroom. We never talked about it afterward. It was messy and desperate and stupid, but at the time, I wanted any part of her I could still have. That was almost 6 months ago, I said. You've been dating. Seeing other people. And now you just show up and say it's mine? I didn't sleep with anyone else until at least a month after that, she said quickly, like she knew how bad it sounded. And even then, it wasn't serious. But when I found out I was pregnant, I did the math. It lines up with that night. I shook my head. Why didn't you say anything sooner? I didn't know what to do, she said. I was scared. I thought maybe I'd just raise it on my own. But I couldn't. Not without telling you. I was spinning. My heart was pounding, my thoughts racing, and the look on her face made me want to believe her. That was the worst part. After everything, after the lies, the betrayal, the radio silence, I still wanted to believe her. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I'd changed. Hardened. Grown skeptical. And this situation felt too messy to just take her word for it. Okay, I said, my voice cold now. If it's mine, we'll get a paternity test. She looked down. I figured you'd say that. Damn right I'm gonna say that, I snapped. You walked out on me, told me you needed to be single, and then posted up with some guy like I never existed. And now you come back with a baby bump and expect me to just take your word for it. I'm sorry, she whispered. I messed everything up. Yeah. You did. We sat in silence for a long time after that. Eventually, she got up to leave. I didn't walk her out. I just stood there, watching the door close behind her, wondering how the hell my life had ended up here, a month out from marrying the woman I thought was my forever, and now staring down the barrel of possibly becoming a father with someone I no longer trusted. If this was the beginning of a new chapter, it sure as hell wasn't the one I'd imagined. But it was far from over. The second she was out the door, I sat down on the edge of the couch and just stared. My brain wouldn't shut up. My heart wouldn't slow down. I had so many emotions hitting me all at once, anger, confusion, fear, even a little shame. Shame that I let her in. Shame that a small part of me still cared. I didn't sleep that night. I just laid in bed staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario. Was she telling the truth? Was she trying to rope me into something that wasn't mine to begin with? Was this some kind of guilt trip, or worse, a backup plan now that the guy she left me for didn't want to be daddy? By morning, I had already looked up the nearest paternity test clinic. When I texted her, she replied almost instantly. Okay. I'll go with you. 2 days later, we sat in the sterile waiting room, surrounded by silence and the faint hum of the air conditioning. She wore a loose sweater and leggings. Her hands were fidgeting the whole time, folding and unfolding a tissue in her lap. She didn't try to talk to me, not really. Just asked if I wanted water and thanked me when I held the door open for her. It felt more like two strangers than two people who used to plan their future together. The nurse came out, called our names, and guided us into the back room. They took her sample first, then mine. Swabs, signatures, sealed envelopes. It was all so clinical, but every second felt like a countdown. We'd get results in a few days. 3 to 5 business days, to be exact. Which meant 72 to 120 hours of absolute mental hell. I didn't hear from her during that time. Not until the results came in. She texted me at 10:17 a.m. on a Thursday, "It's yours." There was a PDF attached with the results. I opened it, scanned for the part that mattered, and there it was, my name, her name, probability of paternity, 99.999%. I just sat there staring at it. I was going to be a dad. With her. The woman who ghosted me. Who said she needed space to figure herself out. Who left without warning and showed up 6 months later with a baby on the way and a confession I didn't ask for. I felt like someone had just dumped a whole different version of my life in my lap without asking me first. Like the old future had been shredded and this was what I was supposed to build now. She texted again, "Can we talk?" I didn't respond right away. I went for a drive instead. Took the long way past the lake we used to walk around when we first moved in together. I thought about how we used to talk about kids someday. How we had names picked out. How I'd imagined teaching our son how to fish, or showing our daughter how to ride a bike. All those memories used to feel warm. Now they felt poisoned. Later that night, I texted back, "Yeah. Come by tomorrow." She showed up around 5. I didn't ask how she was. I didn't hug her. I just gestured to the couch, sat down across from her, and waited. So, I said, "It's mine." She nodded. "I told you." I ignored that. "What exactly do you want from me?" Her mouth opened, then closed again. She didn't seem sure. "I'm not here to ask for money," she finally said. I couldn't do this without telling you." "Okay. You told me. Now what?" She hesitated. "I don't know. I didn't plan any of this, you have to believe that. I didn't find out I was pregnant until weeks after I stopped seeing you. And when I did, I panicked. I was already in a mess." I narrowed my eyes. "What kind of mess?" She looked down at her hands. "The guy I was seeing, it wasn't serious. He ghosted me when I told him I was pregnant. Which was fine because I was pretty sure it wasn't his anyway. And you just assumed I'd be here waiting with open arms?" "No," she said quickly. "No, I didn't. I wasn't even sure I'd come. But then I kept thinking, what if I don't tell you, and years later this kid wants to know who their father is? What do I say then?" I rubbed my face with both hands. "Jesus. I'm not asking for anything," she repeated. "Not right now. Not support. Not even involvement. I just thought you deserved to know." It was weird, hearing her say she didn't want anything from me almost made it worse. It made me wonder if she even believed I could be a good father. If this was just another check-the-box moment in her chaotic little story. I sighed. "Do you have a plan?" She shrugged. "I'm moving in with my sister. She's got a spare room and said I could stay there until after the baby comes. I've got a part-time job. It's not great, but it's something." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she was scared. Not faking it. Not manipulating. Just genuinely scared and overwhelmed. And for a second, I wasn't angry. I was just sad. "You really hurt me," I said quietly. "I know," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix it." She nodded, eyes glossy. "I know that too." I didn't know what to say after that, so we sat in silence for a while. Eventually, she stood up. "I won't come by unannounced again. I promise. You have my number if you ever want to talk." She walked to the door, paused with her hand on the knob, then turned back. "His name's going to be Miles." I picked it because I thought it sounded like someone who keeps going, even when everything's hard. Then she left. And I just sat there again, same spot as before, wondering if I'd just gotten a glimpse of my future or a ghost of the past trying to claw her way back in. I didn't know what to feel. But I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. The days after that conversation were strange. It was like living in a paused reality. I knew something huge had changed, but nothing around me reflected that. The apartment still looked the same, the fridge still held the same expired condiments, the same faded engagement photo still hung on the wall, though I started avoiding looking at it. And yet, I was now someone's father. Or, at least, I was about to be. I didn't rush into anything. I didn't start buying baby clothes or researching strollers. What I did do was start talking to people, real conversations. I called my sister, which wasn't easy. She had always been skeptical of my ex, even when we were planning the wedding. She never said "I told you so," though. She just listened. "She's messed up," she said after I told her everything. "But the baby's not. You've got to separate those things if you're going to be a part of this kid's life." That hit me harder than I expected. Because I didn't know if I could. Part of me wanted to. The idea of having a son, Miles, started to sink in more with each passing day. But the thought of co-parenting with someone I no longer trusted made my skin crawl. Still, I texted her. Asked how the pregnancy was going. If she'd picked out a doctor. If she needed anything. She always answered quickly. Always polite. Sometimes even warm. We started talking a couple times a week. Just about the baby. She never brought up our past. Never hinted at wanting to get back together. It was like we were two cautious people building a bridge in the dark, one piece at a time, trying not to fall in. At the 28-week mark, she invited me to an ultrasound appointment. I hesitated. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid of how it would feel, too intimate, too much like slipping back into a life I didn't choose. But I went. She was already on the table when I walked in. Gown draped over her legs, hair tied up in a bun. She looked tired. But when she saw me, she smiled. Thanks for coming. I sat beside her in the chair, not really sure what to do with my hands. The nurse greeted me like I belonged there. That felt weird. But nice. Then the screen lit up. And there he was. Miles. Tiny feet. Little spine. His heart beating in that fast, frantic rhythm. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel bitter. I just felt overwhelmed. In awe. Scared out of my mind. But in a good way. Do you want to know the gender? The nurse asked. She looked at me. I already do. But I thought maybe you'd want to find out this way. I swallowed hard and nodded. It's a boy, the nurse said with a smile. I didn't cry. But I came close. After the appointment, we got lunch. Nothing fancy, just sandwiches at this little deli near the clinic. We sat outside. She didn't eat much. I noticed her hand trembled a little when she lifted her cup. Have you told your parents yet? I asked. She shook her head. No. They think I'm still figuring things out. They don't even know I saw you again. Why? Because I don't want them in my ear about it, she said. About you. Or what I should do. This is between us. It felt like progress. Like maybe she was finally taking responsibility. But then she said, almost too casually, do you think maybe we could try dinner sometime? Just you and me? I froze. There it was. The moment I knew would come eventually. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know if I can go back there with you. She didn't argue. Just nodded slowly and looked down at her napkin. I get it, she whispered. I do. The thing is, I didn't want to go back there. Not to how we were. That version of us died when she walked out. But I also couldn't deny that part of me still saw her as the mother of my child. And that came with gravity, emotional and otherwise. A few weeks passed. I started helping her with things. Doctor's visits. Groceries. I even helped her build the crib, which felt like one of the most surreal things I've ever done. Sometimes, she'd make me dinner afterward. Just something simple. We'd sit in her sister's cramped dining room and talk about the baby, schools, schedules, baby names, all of it. She never made a move. Never asked me to stay. But her eyes lingered on me longer than they used to. And one night, she said, I know I don't deserve it. But thank you. For not turning your back. I didn't respond. Because I wasn't sure if I had forgiven her. I didn't even know if I could. Then came the baby shower. It was hosted by her sister. I wasn't supposed to go at first, but she insisted. Said it was important that I be there. For Miles. So I went. And man, was that awkward. I hadn't seen most of her friends in over a year. The last time, I was the fiancé. Now I was the baby daddy. No one said it like that, of course. But I could see it in their eyes. There were whispers. Glances. One girl even asked me, not so subtly, so, are you guys back together now or what? I laughed. No. Just figuring things out. But the part that really got me? It was when her mom pulled me aside. She was never the warmest woman, but she had always respected me more than I could say for her daughter, apparently. She looked tired. Thinner than I remembered. Maybe the cancer had come back. She told me everything, she said. About what happened. About how she left. I nodded. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to be angry with her, she continued. Still do, sometimes. But I also know she's scared. And I'm glad you're here. You're a good man. I didn't feel like one. Not after everything. But I appreciated it. Then she touched my arm gently and said something that stayed with me for days. You don't have to forgive her to be a good father. But you do have to move forward. That night, as I lay in bed, I kept thinking about that. Move forward. What did that even look like? I wasn't ready to be back with her. I wasn't sure I ever would be. But I knew I wanted to be there when Miles was born. I knew I wanted to be a part of his life. I knew, despite everything, that I couldn't walk away. So I made a decision. The next morning, I called her. Hey, I said. I've been thinking. When the baby comes, I want to help. Like, really help. Diapers, feedings, the late nights. Whatever you need. But I also want something clear. Okay, she said cautiously. We're not back together. Not now. Maybe not ever. I need time to heal. And I need you to understand that. There was silence on the line for a second. Then, I do. I really do. And maybe for the first time in a long time, I actually believed her. It was around 3 a.m. when my phone rang. I was half asleep, the kind of sleep where you're not really resting, just sort of existing in the dark, trying not to think too much. The moment I saw her name light up the screen, I knew. I picked up immediately. It's happening, she said, her voice rushed and shaky. My water just broke. Okay. I'm on my way. I didn't even think about it. Threw on jeans and a hoodie, grabbed my keys, and was out the door in minutes. The roads were empty, everything silent except for the thoughts spinning in my head like a storm. I was about to become a dad. When I got to her sister's house, she was already in the car, breathing heavy, a towel clutched against her stomach. Her sister opened the passenger door for me and nodded like she knew this was my job now. You got this? She asked. Yeah, I said. I got her. The drive to the hospital was mostly quiet, aside from her breathing and the occasional, turn here. No, wait. Next one. I tried to make her laugh once or twice, just to ease the tension, but she didn't say much. She was focused, scared, and definitely in pain. We got to the hospital, and everything after that was a blur of nurses, monitors, dim lights, and beeping machines. They had her in a room within 10 minutes. I stood awkwardly by her side, not sure if I should hold her hand or give her space. But when the first major contraction hit, she reached for me on instinct. I took her hand, and for the next 10 hours, I didn't let go. She screamed. Cried. Cursed under her breath. And I just kept whispering, you're doing great. You've got this. I'm right here. And I meant it. Every hour that passed, something shifted inside me. I wasn't thinking about the past anymore, about how she left or how I'd spent months hating her. I wasn't even thinking about the future. I was just there, in that moment, with the mother of my child, watching her fight to bring him into the world. At 1:17 p.m., Miles was born. They placed him on her chest, and she burst into tears. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. I just stared at this tiny, red, crying human being who somehow belonged to both of us. Do you want to hold him? One of the nurses asked. I nodded slowly. Took him into my arms like he was made of glass. And when he stopped crying for a second and opened his eyes, just a little, I felt everything change. He didn't know who I was yet. But I knew who he was. He was mine. That moment burned itself into my memory. Not just the look on his face, but hers too. She looked at me with this mixture of exhaustion and gratitude. Maybe even love. And for a second, it was almost like none of the pain had ever happened. Like we were two people who made something beautiful together and were finally seeing it for the first time. We named him Miles Jackson. Jackson was my middle name. She asked if that was okay, and I said yeah, even though I had no idea how to feel about that. She let me fill out the paperwork. She put my name on the birth certificate without hesitation. Thank you, she said, once things had quieted down. For what? I asked. For showing up. For not giving up on him. On me. I didn't answer. I just nodded. They let me stay the night. I didn't sleep much. I sat in the little armchair by the bed, watching them both. She was asleep, curled on her side, pale and peaceful. Miles was in the bassinet next to her, wrapped tight in a blue blanket. And in that weird, sterile, hospital room with buzzing lights and plastic chairs, I felt something new. Peace. The weeks after were harder than anything I'd imagined. Babies don't come with instruction manuals. They just come with noise, and mess, and sleep deprivation so deep it makes you question your own name. But I showed up every day. I bought diapers. I helped with feedings. I changed so many blowouts that I started keeping an extra set of clothes in my car just in case. We fell into a rhythm, she and I. Not like a couple, more like a team. We talked more, too. Honest talks. She told me how lost she felt after leaving me. How she tried to fill that void with people who didn't care. How she felt ashamed when she found out she was pregnant. How she kept waiting for me to slam the door in her face. But you didn't, she said once, while feeding Miles in the early morning light. You didn't leave. Because he didn't do anything wrong, I replied. I meant it. The anger I had toward her wasn't gone, but it didn't belong in the same room as him. He deserved better. He deserved both of us trying our hardest, even if we didn't know what we were doing. And slowly, the bitterness started to fade. Not entirely. Some days I still felt it creep in, when I was extra tired, or when I saw an old memory pop up on social media. But I was choosing something different now. I was choosing to build something real, one day at a time. And then, of course, she asked me the question again. Do you think we'll ever be more than this again? It was late, and Miles had just fallen asleep in his crib. We were sitting on her porch, drinking tea. She looked nervous, like she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. I don't know, I said. I'm not there yet. She nodded. But maybe one day? I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't the same girl who left me. And I wasn't the same guy who let her. Maybe, I said. If we earn it. She smiled at that. A real smile. One that didn't come with expectation. A few weeks later, we took Miles to his first doctor's appointment together. The pediatrician smiled at us and said, "You two make a great team." And weirdly, we did. We weren't perfect. We had a long road ahead. But we were trying. Not just for Miles. For ourselves. Because sometimes, the wreckage of the past gives you space to build something new. Something real. And we were finally figuring out how to do that, together but separately. Slowly. Carefully. One day at a time. A full year has passed since that night in the hospital when Miles came into the world, screaming like he owned the place. I still remember the way his little hand wrapped around my finger like he never wanted to let go. And maybe that's what kept me tethered all this time, through every emotion, every awkward interaction, every moment of doubt. He's crawling now. Teething, too, which means neither of us sleeps much. But when I pick him up and he flashes me that wide, gummy smile with drool on his chin and mischief in his eyes, nothing else really matters. Being a dad turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And yeah, I'm still trying to reconcile how it all started, the lies, the betrayal, the abrupt collapse of a life I thought I was building with someone I trusted. But I don't carry it like I used to. Not the same weight. Not the same sharp edge. A lot's changed in a year. Especially between her and me. We didn't jump back into anything. No big romantic reunion. No sudden declarations of love. But we grew, side by side, co-parents who figured out how to talk like adults, how to set boundaries, how to support each other without falling into old traps. We had our missteps, of course. There was the time I saw her texting someone new and felt this irrational stab of jealousy. Or the time she caught me on a dating app and looked away like she wasn't allowed to feel anything about it. But we talked it through. Every time. Like grown-ups. And that, honestly, was more intimate than anything we'd ever had before. We built trust not through big gestures but through the smallest things, who got up at 3 a.m. when Miles wouldn't stop crying, who remembered to grab formula on the way home, who texted the other first when the pediatrician appointment got rescheduled. We became teammates. And weirdly, friends. Real friends. Some days, that blurred the line. There were late nights when we'd sit on the couch after Miles was asleep, shoulders close, laughing about something ridiculous he did that day. Sometimes our fingers would brush. Once or twice, she leaned her head on my shoulder. But we never crossed the line. Not yet. Then came our first co-birthday. Miles turned 1, and we decided to throw him a backyard party at my place. It was simple, balloons, cupcakes, family. She made the cake, and I grilled burgers. My sister flew in. Her mom showed up looking a little frailer than last time, but proud. There were presents everywhere, and Miles was so overwhelmed that he spent most of the party trying to eat the wrapping paper instead of the actual cake. At one point, while everyone was in the backyard, I went into the kitchen to grab more drinks. She was there, slicing extra fruit for the kids. "You okay?" she asked, seeing me pause by the sink. "Yeah," I said. "Just taking it in." She wiped her hands on a towel and leaned against the counter. "We made a good kid." "We did," I said, and smiled. "We're doing all right." She looked down, then back at me with a small, uncertain smile. "Do you ever think about what comes next? For us?" I didn't answer right away. I'd thought about it a lot. Too much, probably. Sometimes, I admitted. But I'm not in a rush. She nodded. Me neither. That was the first time it didn't feel like pressure. Just honesty. A few weeks later, we started seeing a co-parenting counselor. Not because things were bad, but because we didn't want them to become bad. We wanted to learn how to raise Miles without letting our history turn into baggage. It helped more than I expected. We had sessions where we talked about boundaries, shared responsibilities, long-term plans. And we had sessions where we talked about trust, forgiveness, regret. She cried once, talking about the day she left and how she wished she could go back and tell herself not to be so damn selfish. I didn't say much during that session. Just listened. Afterward, in the parking lot, she said, "You don't have to forgive me, you know." Not completely. I shrugged. I think I already have. At least, most days. That felt like the closest thing to peace we'd ever shared. Eventually, she got her own place. Just a little 2-bedroom apartment about 15 minutes from mine. I helped her move in. Build the crib again. Hung some pictures. We created a schedule. Miles would split his time evenly. It wasn't always perfect, but we kept it steady. Predictable. Safe. One Friday night, when she came to pick him up, she lingered a bit longer than usual. "He called you Dada today," she said with a little laugh, holding back tears. I think it was the first time it really registered. I smiled, heart skipping a beat. "That's wild." She looked at me like she wanted to say more. Then shook her head and kissed Miles on the forehead. "See you Sunday." And she left. Now it's spring again. The trees are budding. Miles is walking, well, waddling, around like he owns the place. My living room is a minefield of plastic toys and soft books. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Some nights I still think about how it all happened. How close I came to losing everything. How, in a twisted way, the worst thing that ever happened to me gave me the greatest thing I've ever known. I still don't know where she and I, will end up. Maybe we'll find our way back to each other one day. Maybe we won't. Maybe this team we've become, is enough. But I do know this. I'm not the man I was before she left. I'm not the man I was when she came back. I'm something different now. A father. A fighter. A guy who got hit by a train and decided to build a whole new life out of the wreckage. And in the middle of it all, is Miles. My son. My reset button. My anchor. And every time I look at him, I know one thing for sure. No matter how it started, this story, it's mine now. And I'm going to finish it right.